Hi, this is Dr. Stephanie Wautier, and I'm the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. I believe healing often begins with connection, and that's really what this podcast is about. These are real conversations about health, healing, life, and the stories that shape us. Some guests come from the wellness world, some come from the community, and some simply bring a life experience worth sharing. My hope is that each conversation invites you to listen, learn, reflect, and maybe see your own life or healing in a new way. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy this conversation with a chiropractor. Today on Conversations with a Chiropractor, I am joined by Dr. Holly Porter. She is a transformational leader, a 17 times best-selling author, the founder of 12 startup companies, and as the founder of the International Retreat Association, she's pioneering the transformation of the entire retreat ecosystem, creating a platform that has never existed, and uniting leaders, venues, and service providers under one powerful global standard. After surviving a 70-day near-death experience with COVID-19, Holly received a divine calling that reshaped her life and mission. She founded the Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation, dedicated to supporting women to be resilient and lead with purpose, passion, and presence. Through her signature SHIFT framework, surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation, Holly teaches leaders how to blend spiritual alignment with business strategy to create sustainable, soul-driven success. Holly, I am so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie. Happy to be here.
So I really want to dive right in to your COVID journey. So tell me a little bit about what your symptoms were and then how things escalated to you being hospitalized and being on a ventilator. And tell us a little bit about that time.
Sure. Well, I went to a conference and we just started going back to things that were live. It was the fall of 2021. So we were a year and a half into that nonsense and they took precautions. I don't blame them at all, but I don't know if I got it on the plane or where, but I honestly never thought I would get it. I was super healthy and I came back and I knew the night before I came home, I had a really bad headache. I just didn't feel great, but it never even dawned on me. So that was Saturday night. Sunday, I flew home, slept on the plane. We were still all wearing masks. I think about how many people I must have infected there because I had the Delta version, which I think was still far the worst. And I got home and about Tuesday morning, I had to get up and pitch a company that was a concept. It wasn't organized yet, but I had a guy that I wanted to partner with and he had a billionaire backer. So I was super excited about it. I was like, I am not canceling. I'm getting up. And so I got up. You get in the shower and if you're a woman and you're sweating, it is like it was like you have the flu symptoms. So my makeup's coming off, sweating it. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I'm doing this. So I went and I pitched him. I just said, hey, I'm not 100% full disclosure. I think I'm coming down with the flu. And that afternoon, my sister was like, have you tested for COVID? I'm like, no. So she brought me over a test. And by then I couldn't even hardly move. And we
Wow.
were in a fifth wheel living there waiting for our house to close. We had one under contract, which we ultimately ended up losing that one because they didn't know if I was going to live. So we were
Wow.
cooped up in there and people in my family were just dropping off food on the steps. We wouldn't let anybody in. We had no fresh air for a week. Gave it to my husband. He was about 2 days behind me in testing. And when you just know, I woke up one morning, it was a whole week later and I couldn't breathe. And I was just scared. And it was about 4:30 in the morning. And I just told my husband, we got to get to the ER. I feel like I got an elephant on my chest. So somehow miraculously, he drove us there because he was very sick. He had blood clots, was on oxygen, but he never was hospitalized. But he said he would have got better a lot faster if he would have been worried about me because he drives us there. We didn't even think about calling an ambulance because we didn't want to infect anybody. So he
Well,
gets us,
right.
I drop you off at the front and he's like, I go and park and we all know how long the ER takes to do things, right? He said, by the time I walked in the door, they already had you in the ICU. Like you were gone that fast. My
Wow.
oxygen was 63 when I showed up, and I probably only had hours left at that point because I was super holistic. And so they didn't have one record on me at the hospital. like that, I just never went. I
Yeah.
had established a couple months before with a doctor. I had never had insurance my whole life, and my friend talked me into getting a policy 2 months before, and that's why I was established with somebody. And
Oh,
so, that was a miracle, lots of miracles, but that
yeah.
started day 1 of 70 in 2 different hospitals.
This episode of Conversations with a Chiropractor is supported by Lemon Grove Oil. One of the things I'm always paying attention to, both in this podcast and in my work, is where something comes from. Not just what a product says it does, but who created it, why they created it, and whether there is real care behind it. That is one of the reasons Lemon Grove Oil feels like such a natural fit here. Lemon Grove was founded by chiropractor Dr. Jerry Del Canton. This is not a random wellness brand that appeared overnight because CBD became popular. It grew out of the chiropractic world, where trust matters, where quality matters, and where people are often looking for thoughtful ways to support themselves between visits, during their busy seasons of life, and in the day-to-day routines that shape how they feel. Lemon Grove offers professional-grade CBD products, including topical lotions, butters, roll-ons, and gummies. They focus on quality, transparency, THC-free formulations with third-party testing, and products designed with healthcare providers in mind. I think that matters because when you are choosing something for yourself or your family, you want more than nice packaging. You want to know there is a real philosophy behind it. If you're curious about Lemon Grove Oil, visit their website at www.lemongroveoil.com. Visit the link in the description and use code DRStephanie at checkout to save 10% on your next order. This offer is exclusive to listeners of Conversations with a Chiropractor.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
it was
Holly.
wild.
So during that time, I mean, I'm an ex-critical care nurse. I'm not sure if you knew that, but you
Didn't
know,
know that.
we always used to think that someone who was on a ventilator in a coma, like that they could perhaps hear us but not respond. Like, do
Yeah.
you remember things? Like, do you
Oh, yeah.
remember? I mean, I'm sure that you were going in and out of even like consciousness and or they were medicating you to keep
Mhm.
you like
Mhm.
in a very, very sedated state so that you could have that ventilator fully working for your lungs. But
Yeah.
were you in like a dream-like state? Do you remember things?
Yeah. Well, okay, so first of all, I was very happy when they would put me probably about 30 almost of those days I was probably in a coma. Either paralyzed coma or just, coma is what they told me, induced. And yeah, I had lost all 5 senses. And so like taste and smell was gone from COVID, but when you're on a ventilator, which I was on one twice and a trachea, and I had sepsis and I had some other infections that would have taken me out. And so
My
it
gosh.
was, like, some really scary days, and, when you're laying there, it was like I couldn't they tie your hands to the bed, so that's scary. I mean, I didn't have any desire to pull my ventilator out. That was giving me breath, and breath was everything to
Mm,
me right then.
yeah, yeah.
I'm past legally blind, so without correction, I couldn't see who anyone was unless they were, like, 8 inches in front of my face, and then they're all wearing, a yellow hat and some kinda eyewear, the yellow mask, and a yellow gown. So everybody looked the same, and then the
Okay.
ventilator, which they never could explain to me why, it took, like, 90% of my hearing away, so everyone sounded like the Charlie Brown, if you're old enough to remember, school teacher.
What?
So I was happy when I was in a coma, and so I started very early having a whole bunch of out of body experiences, and just so your listeners understand, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, I didn't understand for 2 years after all this happened to me that there were different names for what I was experiencing. Like, I can tell you so there's out of body experiences, then there's spiritual transformative experiences, and then there's near death experiences. And
Mm,
I was having all of them, out of body all the time, one major spiritual and one major near death. But I didn't have names for them, but I knew, like, I could even tell you exactly as soon as I understood there was a difference. I could tell you if I was having a bad dream. I could tell you if I was having just vivid dreams of stuff, and then I knew, well, that was an out of body. Oh, this was my spiritual. Oh, this was an near death. Like, they were all so different that when people say, "Oh, you were just dreaming," it's like, no, I clearly can tell you they were way different. and
Yeah.
they all have a name, so it was pretty wild. Like, I always traveled in my bed. So somehow my brain was functioning enough to understand I was not doing well,
Yeah.
and I was out of my body so much in my room. And down the hall, I remember one day we had my ex-brother-in-law's brother was in there a couple doors down, and he kept pulling his
Wow.
ventilator out, and he wasn't doing well. And I remember standing outside of his room looking in, knowing he's not gonna make it. Like, I knew he wasn't.
Wow.
And he didn't make it.
He didn't.
But I always took my bed on all these journeys. I was like,
Mm.
"If I don't take my bed with me, I might not get my body back, so we're just gonna go together." So, it's like we traveled in my bed on all these experiences, and then I would be out of it for the experience, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
just it's funny to think about, but it's, like, interesting how your brain's working when it's not.
Mhm.
When your body's not, your brain's still. So, yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah.
things that. And then specifically to answer that question, I'd always heard your hearing is the last to go. You probably have
Mhm.
heard that too.
Mhm.
And so people have asked me a lot if, "Oh, do you ever remember, like, when you were probably in a coma, remember things?" Well, what I can identify for sure later was my sister was in there. So I had 2 twin sisters younger than me that they're twins, not me. And so they would do 24/7 shifts, all
Wow.
just be in there with me because my husband couldn't come because they wouldn't let him in for, like, 3.5
Oh.
'cause he was sick, and so they would be there, and she was doing we're all real estate people, all 3 of us, and so she was buying a house, and it was like an Airbnb she was buying, and so she was doing work and talking on the phone and stuff while we were in there,
Mm.
and how I ended up in one of my out of body experiences being like, it took me to this Airbnb she had bought in this town that I was traveling to, which is not where she bought it, but it was just like how it was taking what I had heard and put me in that space, and I mean, it's kind of a funny story around it, but, I just it's funny that I specifically, like, wouldn't have known that, and they didn't even tell me she had bought that house until I was probably out of the hospital, maybe, like, a month or 2 after because well, actually, it was more like 2 for sure, because they felt bad because they didn't know if we were gonna be able to get another house or what was happening.
My
'Cause
gosh.
buying homes right then, I bought a house. I called my COVID home because it was my healing home. We just lived there 2 years, but it was my healing home. Anyway,
Can you tell me a little bit about the near-death experience specifically?
yeah, I can tell you lots about it. That was the one, ironically, though, it was, like, probably the best experience, but it was also the one I didn't remember as well. So, I'll mix a couple things in with this because 2 years later I ended up having a hypnosis session. I am certified for hypnosis, so it didn't scare me. I know what it's about and everything, and so I asked my coach and mentor if he would do one specifically on the near death because I was writing my book and I was like, out of integrity, I feel like there's more to the story that I'm not remembering, and, it's amazing what we remember. I mean, think about people listening, like, you have memories that come up that you didn't remember before, and all of a sudden now you remember. It was kinda
Yeah.
like that. It was like he told me in the near death or in the hypnosis session, more will be revealed to you when the time is right. And by
Hmm.
hearing that, it brought me peace because normally I got that personality that's like, I wanna know everything right now, and it
Yes.
was so
Yes.
I was okay with that. I thought, "No, you couldn't have handled everything that you would have seen and heard and been through." And so I'll tell you a little bit of the story, and then I'll kinda go into the hypnosis where I got the rest of the story is what I call it
Yeah.
and some specific messages that I knew I needed later, not during, to remember. So that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So on my near death experience, I'm in my bed, me and my bed did our travelings and
Mhm.
I was leaving my room and I was going down the hall. And when they put you on the ventilator, they make you sign papers. I mean, I'm half dead, but I'm having to sign papers. And
Yeah.
I never could understand that. We call that signing under duress in real estate. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
weird. Anyway, I don't know if I even had a DNR, but I started shaking my finger at the nurse's station as they're wheeling me by, and I'm saying, "I rescind my DNR. I rescind my DNR." And
Wow.
I don't know if I had one. I don't know. I don't think I've ever even checked. I probably did, but if you think about it, COVID's a little bit different for a DNR. You're on a ventilator
Absolutely.
because you have COVID, not because you got in a car wreck and you're brain dead. you know?
Right. Right.
Anyway, so this was between my first and second intubation because I know exactly when it happened, which is kind of cool. And so I'm being wheeled down the hallway and there's other beds with patients and I'm being wheeled down. And I think they were other people dying because half of the people were dying in the hospital every day. I mean, I had a guy tell me later that was one of my friend's husbands. He came, he saw me and he like came and grabbed my hands and he said, I'd never met him before. And he said, I just want you to know I prayed for you. He said he would deliver medical supplies during that time. And he said, I can't tell you how many body bags we dropped off in that hospital. I mean, eerie. And
Oh
I
my
was just like,
gosh.
oh, and he goes, I prayed one day when I was dropping those off that you wouldn't be coming out in one. And I mean, he was just so humble and sincere.
Wow.
I'm crying, he's crying, and I just thought, gosh, there are so many good people in this world. I mean, it was amazing the support.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. Back to my story. So we're going down the hallway, and I end up in this place like we got put like in a stadium, the biggest stadium ever, bigger than any stadium that we have in the world. And we were in the sky boxes because we were in the beds. So they took all the beds and put them in the sky boxes. And then I'm out of my bed. There was like this space of time. That was one of the times where I was like, there's a space of time that I don't remember from being in the bed to being out in the stadium. And I call it the Stadium of Light. And
Hmm.
ironically, I've had a lot of other near-death experiencers tell me, "Oh, I've been to the Stadium of Light." I think that's so cool. I'm
Really?
like, That's cool to hear that, It's like kind of more
Yes.
confirmation." So I'm in the Stadium of Light and there's thousands, like hundreds and thousands of people in there, all in white and bright, bright clothing. And I remember looking around and I could see feet. So I knew nobody was I knew they were floating. They weren't standing or sitting in bleachers or anything. But they were just like hundreds and thousands of people. And everything, talk about senses, when I said I lost all my senses,
Yeah.
it's like they are senses like you wouldn't even believe. So
Like
going from
turned up. Like,
100,000%, it was just like, "Whoa," and there's not a negative thought. Like, you can't I don't even think there's space to have a negative thought, and you're you're communicating with everyone, just through your telepathy is what I would call it, and so as soon as you thought something, you already had your answer. I mean, it was that fast. It was just like
hmm,
so it was like all this knowledge and learning and wondering and, anyway, so we're having all this going on. And then I start hearing music from all four sides, everywhere. I could hear this surround music. And people have asked, that have had those other experiences. A lot of people hear music, but it's not like normal music like we hear here. Because I remember me saying, and I could never figure out why my sisters couldn't catch on what I was experiencing. Like, they're
hmm,
not dumb girls, I'm like, why don't you get that I was having a near death experience? Like, they didn't catch on. I did later because I started listening to what I was saying, and I'm explaining like, oh, I went to the best concert I've ever been to, and
mhm,
they sounded like angels, and it was the best music. And I'm telling them, go get the paper. Like I'm telling them to get the newspaper, like anyone reads those anymore. It was such a big event. Like, you'll have to go. I
wow.
can't believe you don't know about it. I mean, just weird stuff like that. And so I'd listen to the music, probably that that knowing I had, yeah, it was like the gift of all knowing. And so I never had heard the songs, but I knew the words to every song. And it was probably just that fast, quick. I don't know, but I love
Wow.
singing. So I'm singing and having a good old concert, so to speak. So the next thing I remember was I'm in a life experience, seeing that review, and all I'm seeing is good. And I'm
Mm,
not questioning why, because you don't. That would be a negative.
you're just in the moment.
Yeah, and it was like I was experienced like I would be a play. That's how I was seeing it play
Mm,
out. And so, of course, later that was one of the things I questioned, like, why didn't I see bad? I did plenty of bad things. Why am I not seeing the bad? You always hear your life's review, you have to be accountable for everything you did, and blah, blah, blah. So
yeah.
I'll tell you more about that piece of it later. So I experienced that, and then I didn't get a chance to come back. Like, I got set back, but I was told 2 things which were really interesting. So, the group that I pitched to was on top of mind because I'd just done it when I was sick, and I was so
Mhm.
excited to partner with them, and I was so excited about this company. It was called Retreat R&R, and it was a software company, kind of a booking hosting site like Airbnb, but for
Mm,
retreats. It wasn't done yet. I love innovation. So I was like so excited about it. Billionaire backer, thinking slam dunk, we're going to get this done. Well, the first thing I was told was not to partner with those people. I was
Wow.
warned, basically. I was told, don't do it. And it's so interesting
Wow.
now. It's been 4.5 years, all the things that have transpired as to why. Wow. I'm just like
Mm.
grateful because it just, there's so many things that happened since. So I dodged a bullet, basically, literally.
Wow.
And I was told not to do that. And then I was given the name to go start a nonprofit that you were talking about, the Venture Bucket Wish. And I was not given the mission. I was only given the name. So
Hmm.
that became significant to later in the story too. And so I came back and it was a long road. My last experience was my spiritual transformative experience. You want me to tell you that one real quick?
Can I ask you a quick question about you being in the stadium of light? And when you say that you got sent back, so it sounds sort of like you're kind of floating and you're having this experience and you're knowing things and you're having senses. Do you sort of get pulled back into your bed, or do you remember like the end of that? I'm just curious. Or
Okay. Well,
like
that's
how
that's
did
an interesting story.
okay.
So I get told those things and then I just remember feeling like crap again. So like literally it was like, boom, you're back. So
Mm,
do these things, boom. And because I think if I would have gotten a choice, I'm pretty sure I would have stayed. Honestly, I always tease. I have adult kids. I'm like, yeah, I could help them better from the other side. They'd probably listen to me a little more. I'll just freak them out. Just kidding. But
I've heard that. I've heard that people who've had these near death experiences, they find it to be so beautiful and comforting and like, good, pure good, that a lot of people are like, yeah, if I had had the choice, I would have stayed. So that's very
which is
interesting.
comforting, I hope, to people that have lost people to know how good of a place that they're in if they've passed
Mhm.
away, and it had nothing probably to do with you. And staying.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that thought like me. I could help my kids from the other side better than I'm helping them now as adults. Like, you know what I mean? It's just sometimes we get in a victim
Absolutely.
mode where we're like, they don't love me enough to come back. I mean, I don't think, oh my gosh, I don't think it's about that at all. It's so much bigger than
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry that I interrupted.
No, it's fine. Well, I'll go back. Okay, so
Okay.
then I get sent back. So this is how I know it was between my first and second intubation because I wake up, of course, I'm in tons of pain. Like, I had never had pain before because I had never really had health issues. So
Mhm.
much pain. And, of course, they had me on every single drug they're known to mankind. I never got addicted to anything, shockingly. You'd understand that probably more than me. But, I'm a
Yeah.
redneck naturally too, so we metabolize very differently, and they were giving me oxycodone and fentanyl they were giving me, like, every hour, and my body was metabolizing it every 20 minutes. So it was almost like I
Wow.
was getting overdose, withdrawal. I mean, there was just no balance, and so there was just some scary, scary days. But when I woke up, I was very, disoriented. My sister ended up being in there. Her name's the sister Jill, and she said, so I couldn't talk. Obviously, I had a ventilator, but they got the alphabet out, and I would point to things, and I didn't even have strength mostly to do that. It would take a long time to communicate anything,
Mm,
long time. So she said, you started pointing out K, D, and she said, "Oh, do you want me to tell your kids something?" I mean, they're trying to help me, right?
yes.
And I must have shook my head and she said, "Okay." I kept going. So, KIDNAP, and she's like, "When I realized you spelled kidnap," she said, "I had left to run an errand because you were doing better." Yeah, I was doing better because I was coming back to my body, right? So they were
Yeah.
taking the ventilator out, and she says, "As soon as you said that," she goes, "I wanted to grab the garbage can and throw up." I was just, like, sick, like, "What happened?" She was scared for me, and, right then, the nurse and the doctor walked in to extubate me and take the tubes out. And she said, when they took him out, you could talk. You couldn't talk very well, but she goes, "You had a lot to say." But the
Wow.
first thing I remember was being a little bit there were spirits in the room, at least 3, which is interesting because I had someone else, that's had near-death experiences, like, name them who was in there, and I was like,
Mm,
"You're probably right?" So it's kinda cool how you just start getting pieces as you go along and you get the rest of
yeah.
the story. So she showed me, open the door, the drawers and everything that, "Nope, no, nobody's in here," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm the only one that can see them, obviously." So that was happening, and then the spiritual experience was the one. Okay, so that one was a really defining moment, and then I'll go back to the near death and tell you, like, the rest of the story that I got because it's pretty
Yes.
juicy,
Yes.
if you're okay. And just cut me off if you need to.
No, no,
Okay.
no. We're good. We're so good.
So we went. Okay, so the spiritual one was the last experience that I remembered. There might have been out of body after that, but I remember this one was after the near death. And I was really feeling defeated because, here I am, second time on the ventilator. Like I just there were my sisters would update people on Facebook because I have friends all over the world and they were hanging on to that. That's the only way they knew anything. And she
Wow.
said sometimes a week would go by and nothing had gotten better or worse. There wasn't anything to report. We always tried to keep it uplifting, but we also would post pictures of you knowing you would let us, but I looked horrible. So
Wow.
anyway, I remember my cousin sent a text to whatever sister was there that day and said, "Please read this to Holly because I know she's not doing well." She lived out of town. She said, "I normally wouldn't send this kind of an experience on a text, but I really feel like she needs to hear it." Hear it, remember? And so because I was on a ventilator still. And so she said, they read it to me and I was like, I remember thinking, oh, how sweet. And it was basically her praying for my husband and I for our well being. And she had all these spirits around her. Like she's more of a feeler and I'm more visual. And so she started asking who was there. And she said in the text, like all these dead ancestors and relatives that we had that were there and basically letting us know we had this support behind us.
Mm.
Well, they must have put me back in a coma because I wasn't doing well. And I remember being really, really angry. I was so mad. I was like, because she's kind of like a sister cousin. So I was like, this isn't fair. I'm the one suffering. Like, why did she get to have that experience and I didn't, And that time my prayers were changing too. It was like I had never been afraid to die, but I was kind of at the point, it was like, this is sucking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're
Yeah.
not going to get me better, then get me out of here. That was kind of my sassy. So I'm in that sassy, angry spot. And who usually comes and puts us in check? Our mamas. My mom had died about year and a half before that. And she had come to me a lot while I was in the hospital, always on my right side, but she never spoke to me that I remember still. I only remember this one time. But she came to my right side and she said, "It's not your time to go." And she's like, "And you need to fight." And I remember my brother had passed on too in a really bad car wreck and his wife a year and a half before that, left 4 kids.
Mm.
And he came and kinda put his hand on her shoulder, just, like, showing support, and then above my bed doesn't leave this time, it's, like, in my room, and above my bed is all my ancestors who have passed on, all in white, so my grandparents, my aunt, and my grandbaby had passed away just 5 months before. As a baby,
Mm.
she came as an adult, but I knew it was her, so that
Wow.
was really special. And as they came, they're chanting, "Fight." Fight, fight. And every time
Wow.
I say fight, now a whole group of people behind them are in street clothes. So I know those are living people. I'm seeing my husband and my kids and siblings
Mm.
and friends. And then I saw like thousands, not the hundreds of thousands is in the Stadium of Light, but thousands of people I didn't even know.
Mm.
And I was like, it was like just do. Like if you looked in a mirror behind and you could just see, it was like that, but looking above my bed. And it was like that defining moment when I knew I was going to live. It was like,
Mm.
I have all these people supporting me. Now I
And
think
in
all the oh, go ahead.
No, and encouraging you to fight, like, encouraging you to
Yeah.
hold on. Like
How can I
give
not? I
Mm.
mean, it wasn't an easy road back. It was a long, long road back, but it was just like that point where I was like, got it. I just have to fight like I hadn't been. But I'm just saying it was a different kind of fight, knowing that you're going to survive.
Yeah.
After what
Yeah.
I've been through, I could go through anything, I'll tell you. But yeah, I feel like all those people I didn't recognize, I think they were all the prayer lists that all my friends and family had put me on all over the world. I feel like that was the support, all those prayers, but I saw the actual people. I thought that was
Wow.
I just
That's
was like, what a cool thing?
That's really beautiful and really amazing. Like, for anyone who maybe doesn't think prayer works, like,
Mm,
there's a very tangible, physical, real experience that you had.
yeah. I actually even I had a painting commissioned. It took me about 8 months to get it done. It's called Fight, but I could only have
wow.
26 people in it, which was so hard because I'm from a family of 9 kids, plus we have 8 kids. I mean, it was hard. Anyway, 8 months to get it done, and it's like the view of me in the bed with the people, like, behind me, because that's how we painted it. But it ended up being 6 foot by 4 foot. It's huge.
Wow.
And I didn't want it that big. They kept telling me, like, the heads are full size heads in the picture. They told me I had to have it that big just to do it. And I thought, they did my cute little grandbaby. I decided to paint her as a grandbaby, how I remembered her. And I
Okay.
remember my kids that had her, that lost her. She was just a couple days old. And I remember the day they came in that room, they hadn't seen the painting and I forgot. Like I wasn't like showing it off to everyone because it
Yeah.
kind of meant a lot to me, but it probably means nothing to anyone else. And I
Yeah.
remember walking in the room and seeing my daughter-in-law, it was her baby that passed away, just standing there in front of it. Oh my gosh, I was just like,
Wow.
I think she knew about it, but she hadn't seen it. And I was just like, my gosh, you haven't seen this. And she's like, no.
What an emotional moment for you guys. Wow.
Anyway, yeah, it's
Mm.
pretty wild. It's funny because I'm on a lot of near-death podcasts, but there's a lot of those kinds of stories that we just don't talk about. So thanks for bringing it out because
Yeah.
I hope it's because someone needs to hear it today, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting that my podcast is entitled Conversations with a Chiropractor, but my
Awesome.
guests are people that have basically had I don't want to say like a trauma or an experience, but that had something that I really do believe that they need your story needs to be shared, like definitively.
Well,
So
you're
maybe
picking the
my
guest, so it's on you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So you sort of got a word on I actually want to go back. So you wrote the word kidnap right when you were like about to get extubated that first time. What was that word all about? What was that word all about?
Yeah. So tell me about it because so the next 2 years, huge healing. I mean, my body was a mess. Within 4 months, I don't know how, well, I do know how I had the grace of God helping me, but I had the nonprofit and the other company. I had the 501(c)(3 in like 25 days. They were just like miracle after miracle because I was still on oxygen. So I had both these companies up and going. I was doing the branding and marketing for them. So there were just so many things going on at once. And then right when that happened, about 4 months later, I went through what I call my 2 years of hell. It almost was 2 years. And it was every day I prayed I would have died. I was like going through, it was like the only way I can explain it to even let people know is I felt like every bad day I'd ever had, times that by 100. And that's how I felt every single day.
Wow.
So I survived that. It was horrible. And so when I was coming out of that was when I went to IANS, which is International Association for Near Death Studies. I went to their conference and that's where I found out about these other things. And then I was just kind of starting in my healing journey because I was such a mess. And that's when I had the hypnosis. I just really felt inspired to do that. And so when we did that, it was almost like another near death experience. It was like it opened these portals again that I didn't remember some of that. And so the kidnap thing, what happened there was so where we ended up in the hypnosis was remember that space I said when I went from my bed to the stadium of light, but before I got into the light, there was like just this space of time that I couldn't account for.
Yeah.
So this is the rest of the story, what I now feel like happened. Because people always say, did you have a guide? And, and like, I didn't remember a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
So I feel like I ended up in the in between. So in the hypnosis session, I didn't go to the stadium of light until the end. Like he had me. So I feel like what happened was I was taken by an entity. So
Oh,
when you're super vulnerable, like that's, I guess, when that can happen, right? So I'm taken to this in between. It's not light and it's not dark. The dark is on the right side, light's on the left. And so there's like in the stadium of light, there was like a fog of light, but you could see through it so clearly. So it's really hard to explain because you think of fog, you can't see through it. But I could see
yeah.
because all my senses were so good. But there was this matter that would be like floating around. So in the in between, it's like icky colors, it's like cobalt blue and black and gray and silver, and like colors I can't even describe. They were like floating
Mhm.
around. And so, but I first thing I noticed was they would like put together, it was like matter, and then they would form a heart and they float to the light, the left. And I'm like,
Oh,
I remember thinking, well, even in the dark, it's attracted to the light. We all are attracted to the light. So even the dark wants.
yeah.
So I remember thinking that, and then there ended up being there's a bunch of weird stuff, but there ended up being an entity there. And in hypnosis, you can do a lot of healing stuff by basically talking to that person, and it's a process. So we talked to this entity. His name was Darby. That was weird because in the next 30 days, I heard it 3 times, and I didn't feel like I'd ever heard it before. So that was
Yeah.
crazy in 3 different contexts. So this Darby wanted my light. He said he didn't have any connection to me. He just wanted my light. So my hypnotist friend bantered with him. Like it felt good because he had my back. My friend had my back. He was like, "You
Wow.
stole her light. That's not yours and you didn't earn that and you need to give it back." And so they're having this like fight and here's that word again. And I'm like, he finally I could all of a sudden feel the light coming like from
Mm.
the left, that stadium of light fill. And I felt it. And Darby says, it's coming to get her and it's not, and I'm not going to be able to stop it. So it was like, well, then let her go. Let her have it. So ultimately
Wow.
let me go. Yeah. And I go forward and I look to the right in the far, far, far away, and there's a mountain with one eye on it. And I'm like, and there's a lot of good and evil things people say about that. But I saw it 2
Yeah.
times in a row to where I went the second time. That's the second time I've seen that. Okay, noted. Got it. I don't know what it means. I still don't know the exact other than you can see I have them behind me. I have one eyes. I know it. I know for me it's a protector of some sort. It might have been
Okay.
on the dark side, but it was facing the light side. Like, and so I saw that.
Wow.
And then I saw a tree in front of me, and when I saw the tree, talk about peace, like until about a year and a half ago, I had never really felt true peace in my life. Really. Like I did.
Mm.
If you don't know what that feels like, I mean, I implore you to research that because I really had never felt it. And I see
Mm.
this tree and I'm like, huh. And it, so when I was told to on Retreat R&R, when we were going and doing the marketing and I didn't partner with that company, I was branding it and I said, the logo needs to have a tree in it. And this is way before this session. This was 2 years before, actually.
Mm.
And so it came back, and my logo had 11 leaves and 11 roots, which is 1, 1, 1, 1. So that's part of my story. Also, the day I got out of the hospital.
Wow.
So obviously, the day I launched my book, 11/11, very, very significant. Even my birthday's 1/1. So like there were
Ah.
so many like cool things that were happening around that. But when I saw it, it was like God saying to me, you listened. You did what you were supposed to,
Mm.
and now I'm gonna give you another piece to the story. So it was like it wasn't the
Yeah.
same tree, but I'm just saying it was a symbol.
Yes. Oh, a symbol. Absolutely.
So then I get over to the light now, and all that matter that was like icky, swirly, whatever, darker colors, now it becomes the light again because I'm in the light, but it all of a sudden I see those hearts and they're like rose-colored pink hearts.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Oh." So 2 things I was told to do, the company, and I got the tree for that, and the nonprofit. So the nonprofit, when we had our first gala fundraiser, in every little bag, I did this little ornament that said hope on it. And we had created mission, which has now changed, which is a whole nother story, but it was for long COVID. It was
Wow.
underserved community. It was so needed. Nobody knew anything about it. And so that's who we were, the nonprofit was for. So it said hope. And then I had in every little gift bag with that, I had put a pink rose colored quart heart in every bag.
Mm.
Didn't know why. Nobody asked me. I just ordered them. I was like, I just knew they needed to be in there, which, they stand for love and, a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, it was like, here's your gift. Here's your next knowledge because you did what you were supposed to and you didn't even remember this is like part of the story. So I was just
I
like,
love
felt
that.
so healed. I was just like, I'd come out of that 2 years of hell and I was like, "Oh, thank you, And so it was a big part. And then I was given a couple messages. I was told then more will be revealed to you when the time is right. And then I'm seeing the life review. And guess what? I remembered to ask this time, like, why am I only seeing the good? You want to know what he said?
What?
So I didn't see God. I heard God, plain as day.
Okay.
He said, I'm showing you the good because that's what matters.
Mm.
Of course it is. That's what our focus should be on. And so then he gave me a message. And this message, I will say right now, if I would have had and remembered from the actual near-death experience and had that memory, I wouldn't have had the 2 years of hell, which would have been great, except knowing what I know now, that was showing me all of this philanthropy work that I know I'm supposed to do in the future. It was showing me the ick. And it's like I was handed this life Bible and the ending was written and I just have to go fill in all the pages in between. Like I know I'm back here to do some big work. And I know the philanthropy
Wow.
huge part of it. And if I wouldn't have seen what I saw, I went through what I did. So it was like I had to like suffer that and go through that because this was the message. Love them where they're at. And I
Mm,
just thought, okay, that takes judgment away. Like you can't change the way someone is. You can only change you. And I thought,
yeah.
wow, so much with that. But like I said, I just would have reacted so differently in all those situations I happened to be in. Were horrible. Anyway, so that was kind of like such a blessing because and I just feel so grateful to have that experience. But I also feel like I say this a lot to people when I'm telling this story. I don't want someone sitting there. First of all, I always say, you don't have to almost die to truly live. You don't. And
Yeah.
you don't have to have an near death experience to make changes and shift and do things. And your mission, like I never, this was a calling for me. I never had a purpose that I felt like I actually had a purpose ever until this happened. And
Wow.
there's a lot of people that go through that. And this is what I would say to that, especially women, because we're really hard on ourselves. A
Mhm.
woman might be listening to this thinking, yeah, you're right. I don't feel like I have a purpose. I'm just staying at home raising kids and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere in my life. Whatever you're saying to yourself. What if your purpose that you don't think you have, what if your purpose is to be raising or you are raising the next president of the United States? How big did your purpose
Abs
become?
absolutely. Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. Like you might think you have nothing, you might think it's small, but it could be so big. What if you change one life with your
Yeah.
purpose? That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, I plan on changing hundreds and thousands, but that's my calling, right? That's not other people's. And so it's like sometimes we feel like it's so small when it might be a lot bigger than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, there's so much to like pull out of this and emphasize. Like, I mean, one thing after the other that I'm thinking of, but like, I love your obedience and your your willingness to just sort of go with God's leading, right? Like whether it was the rose quartz or whether it was, saying no to that company or saying yes to the nonprofit and basically following what you felt like God was pulling you to do.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you something. I mean, you've said all these very profound things. I'm not sure what your religious upbringing was, but I was raised Catholic and they always talk about purgatory, right? And like the visual that you just shared with me. I mean, when I was younger growing up, I sort of envisioned purgatory as being nothingness, like just blackness or like the black hole, like you're not on earth, you're not in heaven, you're sort of in this in between, which sort of maybe sounds like your space, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But this might be a really weird question. Do you feel like there was like an evil entity that was coming for your life? Like do you feel like that your soul or your death or life was being fought for?
So this is the words that came to me when after the Darby thing, because Darby never made me afraid. So I feel like he wasn't a good soul, but he wasn't an evil soul necessarily. He just wanted my light. Who wouldn't? Right? I mean, he said, I can't have it. I can't go to the light. I want her light. So if that was you and you're like in this space of the in between, whatever, maybe that was his purgatory, whatever, I don't know. But
Yeah, yeah.
I believe there were more entities there. There were more things going on there. We've talked about doing another hypnosis session to see, but at the
Okay.
time I saw what I needed to see. I got out of
Yeah,
it what I needed, and that's specifically what I was asking for.
yeah.
So, yeah, very powerful. But the way I feel like it was, I feel like that he took me. That's why I felt kidnapped. Okay. Because that
Okay.
was a weird thing to feel. But
Yeah,
would you feel kidnapped if you went from the stadium of light and you ended up in this in between? So I think
yeah.
there was that confusion with that whole thing, but I feel like I had to have a spiritual intervention to get back. And so
Mm,
that lie that came and took me, it could have been a guide. Maybe I just don't remember yet. I just
yeah.
remember feeling that heat and that light on my face when I was being released, to go back there. And so I don't know. So I was raised very religious.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, like I always believed we were taught that if you're in outer darkness, that's like the worst person there is, and maybe that's the purgatory. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I was religious, spiritual, and now I'm spiritual religious. I feel like it takes more of a back seat now than it did before.
Yeah.
Not judging anybody or anything, it's just
No, and I mean, I've had like my own like spiritual journey too, and I'm not Catholic anymore, but yeah, like just just certain things, like certain images, certain visuals. I was just like, it's just really interesting to me.
yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of symbolism in the world. I mean, that's if we pay attention, and I talk about that a lot in my book with the SHIFT acronym, with the inspiration, because we all have it. We all have that in us. And it's just sometimes we're not being present enough to listen.
Yeah.
Meaning number 1, guilt, and it's like when we do that, because I felt like I always had, like, that I call it the gift of knowing. It's not a
Okay.
psychic ability for me, I don't feel I would call it that. It's just people will say to you when you have it, "Well, how do you know that?" You don't know, you just know. Like, with everything in you, it's right. It's not being a know-it-all, it's just you know something to be true, and
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely got intensified, and I always felt like I also had the power of discernment to detect evil about me. And so it's like, but are we paying attention? So a lot of times we have some
Yeah.
gifts that we're stuffing. And I think even for the last 4 years, even, I mean, just probably this last year, I feel like, well, I'm open to that. Okay, lay it on me. Whatever we're gonna get, we're gonna get. Whereas
Right.
before it was a constant, it was a fight. It was a fight for health. It was a fight with relationships I was having. There was just like so much other stuff going on. And now that, in fact, I have a word that's cut out, peace, like above me right here, that I can look at every day, because it's so great to actually feel it.
Mm.
And I never felt that. And it's like, I remember my sister saying, I was just in such a bad place. And I remember her saying, I just wish you could feel some peace. And
Wow.
if you don't feel that, or you've never known that to be, you don't know what that's like. You just don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Holly, would you tell us a little bit about your book? And is there a specific audience for your book, like a specific person that you're trying to reach?
well, there's so much behind the book. It had another title. The title came while I was writing it. I worked on it for a couple years, but it sat for about a year and a half. And then last year I knew it was supposed to come out, and it was supposed to come out on 11/11, which was my hospital release date. And so I worked on it really hard. And that was the first time in my life I didn't have 100 things going on. I literally was just like laser focused. I knew it needed to be a spiritual book. None of my other books were all small, or I was part of an anthology, compilation book with other authors. And anyway, so it ended up being a spiritual and personal development book. It's called Near Death Shift: What Dying Taught Me About Life, Business, and Purpose, which is exactly what it did. And so the first half is like my story, lots of things, lots of crazy stuff. And then all the near death story and out of body stories and things. And then the last 8 chapters of the book is like the shift I created out of it in other subjects, around things. And it's got things that talks about people in history, in that subject. It gives journaling questions. So I just feel like
Neat.
it's a spiritual personal development book. And I guess kind of a memoir. I don't really like calling it that, because it's like I don't want it necessarily about me. I want it about what somebody can get out of it to move their life
Yeah.
forward. But yeah, there's a lot of story in there. Pretty
Well, I
wild.
think that there are very few people who have survived what you've survived, right? I mean, 70 days in the hospital and 2 intubations and a trachea, and then 2 years of healing after that. And I would say from my perspective that this was definitely your calling, that were obedient to your calling to bring this message to people, because we all, I think, sort of need to take a moment and stop and not be so much in our own selfish physical worlds, right? Like, what is the purpose for our day, and what are we called to do, and be a little bit more open, whatever God is to you, but be a little bit more open to his still small voice and say, oh gosh, like, should I help that person? Should I reach out to this person, or this person comes to my mind? Should I call them? Or, just to be a little bit more aware of how we can be used,
Mhm.
by God in our day to day. Like, it sounds sort of
Yeah.
like you have done that. You have taken all of your experiences and given us a little bit of a template to say, yeah, I love it. I'm going to read it again, like surrender, hope, intuition, faith, transformation. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be applicable to a lot of us.
It's interesting because I just was on the I think it's called Spiritual Awakening Conference. I think that's what they're called. Just this weekend, I was a speaker on that, and I talked about the shift method. And someone said, "What do you think comes is like the first step or the most important?" And it's interesting because like I know that word and you're hearing it everywhere now. It's like when you never see a color of a car and then you buy that car and then that's all you see. It's kind of like in my awareness, obviously. But shift, I couldn't believe how many times I heard it. And I also couldn't believe how many times I heard on the conference other speakers talking about surrender. So surrender's the first letter, transformation is the last letter, but I feel like you can't have one without the other in that order. You
Yeah.
have to first surrender. And so when he asked me that, I was like, that's easy. I feel like surrender is the first thing you have to do to understand. I mean, nobody that's been successful in this world have I ever heard did it alone.
Yeah,
And if they
absolutely.
are successful and they tell you that, they're lying. Everybody gets somewhere with someone else. We all need a step
Yeah.
up, a leg up, help up. And, if you can be that for somebody else, that's even better. But at some point, you just have to know. I mean, for me with my health, it was just, yeah, it was like either I'm going to get better or I'm not. And kind of when I had the spiritual experience, it was like, I'm done. If it's my time to go, but if it's not, get me better and get me out of here. I mean, it was like, I got plans here either way. So let's go.
Yes.
It was that surrender for sure.
Holly, how can people find you online, and how can they find your book?
Sure. Neardeathshift.com. So neardeathshift.com. I'm going to give you a link though. I have one link that's a link tree and it literally can connect you to my socials, to my email, calendar, websites. I have, International Retreat Association. You can go learn about that. Everything's on that one link. So I'll just give you that and you can get it on
Yeah,
Amazon. You can order it from me and I'll give you a signed copy too.
cool.
Whatever works. Yeah.
Well, it has been such a joy. We'll have the link in the show notes, and I'll put this on social media. But Holly, what a beautiful joy that it has been to have you on this podcast today. Like, what an amazing and triumphant experience you had out of a really, really, really tragic time.
Yeah, I would have never thought this conversation would have went here today, but you know what? I'm here for it.
Yay! Yep, we're open to wherever we're led, right?
Yeah. It's true. And well, or we need to be, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's part of listening
absolutely.
and being present and showing up where you need to be when you need to be there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being a guest, Holly.
Thank you.
This episode of Conversations with a Chiropractor is supported by Lemon Grove Oil. One of the things I'm always paying attention to, both in this podcast and in my work, is where something comes from. Not just what a product says it does, but who created it, why they created it, and whether there is real care behind it. That is one of the reasons Lemon Grove Oil feels like such a natural fit here. Lemon Grove was founded by chiropractor Dr. Jerry Del Canton. This is not a random wellness brand that appeared overnight because CBD became popular. It grew out of the chiropractic world, where trust matters, where quality matters, and where people are often looking for thoughtful ways to support themselves between visits, during their busy seasons of life, and in the day-to-day routines that shape how they feel. Lemon Grove offers professional-grade CBD products, including topical lotions, butters, roll-ons, and gummies. They focus on quality, transparency, THC-free formulations with third-party testing, and products designed with healthcare providers in mind. I think that matters because when you are choosing something for yourself or your family, you want more than nice packaging. You want to know there is a real philosophy behind it. If you're curious about Lemon Grove Oil, visit their website
at www.lemongroveoil.com.
Visit the link in the description and use code DRStephanie at checkout to save 10% on your next order. This offer is exclusive to listeners of Conversations with a Chiropractor.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, like, or subscribe? You can find me on social media at wautierwellness.com, Dr. Stephanie Wautier on Instagram, or Wautier Wellness Chiropractic and Massage on Facebook. And I'm so curious where your next conversation will take you.